Today, Princess Diana lent her high-profile support to try to stop these runaways from becoming permanently homeless.
The Princess of Wales felt not the slightest apprehension about her visit to the Middlesex Hospital and its AIDS ward.
Never on holiday with Dodie fired. Three British papers have paid £500,000 for them. Other publications worldwide are eagerly doing deals.
Fairy tales usually end at this point with the simple phrase, "They lived happily ever after."
The Princess of Wales was a new kind of royal. A new word began to appear in the media's vocabulary, die-mania.
The Princess of Wales has agreed to Prince Charles's request for a divorce.
In some small way, I have been of service in return.
The Princess of Wales has died in a car accident.
At Buckingham Palace, telegrams of condolence have been arriving from leaders around the world.
I wanted just to be with you, to show you that you are not forgotten.
Diana did things differently. There was a memo came from Buckingham Palace. Diana, when you're in public, please wear a hat and please wear gloves, because you're touching the public and you might catch something. And I'm not too sure about you touching those people with HIV and AIDS. Are you sure you're safe? We lived in a world of ignorance. We lived in a world where people were not educated. They didn't know. The princess introduced me to the first person dying with HIV and AIDS. I didn't know anything about it until she showed me that world. She would sit and hold people's hands and counsel them. So life with Diana was very different.
The Princess of Wales felt not the slightest apprehension about her visit to the Middlesex Hospital and its AIDS ward, according to press reports. All speculation had centred on whether she would wear gloves when shaking hands with the staff and patients on the new ward. But as she entered, to the delight of the staff, she clearly wasn't wearing gloves. And she shook hands with all the nurses, doctors, and all 10 patients on the ward. She stayed more than an hour, but was not filmed with any of the patients. They were worried about public exposure. Only one agreed to be photographed.
Well, I think the princess actually helped get that message across by the mere fact that she wasn't wearing gloves and the mere fact that she shook hands with the patients and myself.
HIV does not make people dangerous to know, so you can shake their hands and give them a hug. Heaven knows they need it. What's more, you can share their homes, their workplaces, their playgrounds, and their toys. We all need to be alert to the special needs of those for whom AIDS is the last straw in an already heavy burden of discrimination and misfortune.
Being such a compassionate personality, I think it's really important to remember that Diana really put an emphasis on coming into contact with the public and relating to them and creating a bond, and removing the gloves is symbolic of that, in that she liked to touch people, she liked to be involved with them. And there's a picture of her in 1991 where she's shaking hands with an AIDS patient, which was significant insofar as it helped dispel a lot of the misconceptions around AIDS at the time. And it was something that was a marked departure from what we'd seen previously in the royal family.
And that's what she wanted to do. And the Queen then turned around and said, well, you know, why don't you do something nice? Well, that was a complete blow-up for her, because that made her even more determined to get involved with it. And there's, you know, thereafter, Diana's involvement with the AIDS charitable trusts, of which there are many, was vitally important to where we are today, where there is now, you know, a complete, almost total recovery of people dying from AIDS. You know, that early initiative of Diana, who was, you know, instrumental in fundraising, you know, hundreds of thousands because of who she was, and her visiting AIDS hospices, which I went to with her, you know, to raise the awareness of the problems and the need for research.
And then, of course, she took William and Harry to the London Lighthouse to see people suffering and dying with HIV and AIDS. Invaluable. Look at them now, carrying on their mother's work in those fields which she pioneered, in those fields which the rest of the royal family wouldn't dare touch. And I remember the Queen saying, "But Diana, you must wear gloves. You might catch whatever these people have." I think it's just born of ignorance, really, because they knew nothing better. They weren't educated. The princess was.
We have a battle on our hands. It has to be waged on two major fronts: prevention and cure. As far as prevention is concerned, parents and teachers are in the front line. As a parent myself, I'm only too aware of the responsibility this implies in terms of the kind of upbringing best suited to encourage the child to say no.
She also boosted the morale of the soldiers serving in Northern Ireland. She went to Londonderry to visit the Royal Hampshire Regiment, one of the regiments of which she was Colonel-in-Chief. Even in full combat gear, the princess managed to look glamorous, providing a welcome relief for the men used to the daily dangers of serving in the troubled province. Although an obvious target herself, the princess seemed to shrug off any fears. During the time of the Gulf War, she was there to give support to the wives and children of servicemen fighting in the desert. And she chatted to the fighting men who would soon be on their way to take up arms against the Iraqis. She gave great comfort to many during frightening times. And it wasn't only the British troops who idolized her. Out in the sands of Kuwait, the American forces had also made her their pin-up.
She had to have a reason to work, and the homeless was another case in point.
For Diana, Princess of Wales, leprosy and the need to rid the world of the stigma that blights its sufferers has become something of a personal crusade. Addressing an international conference in London this morning, she called on people to show greater awareness and perhaps, like her, extend a caring hand.
It's always been my concern to touch people with leprosy, trying to show in a simple action that they are not reviled, nor are we repulsed.
She had to have something to do as a princess. And, you know, for her, yeah, the fun bits of the supermarkets, you know, walking down the streets of Glasgow, whatever, shaking people's hands was great. But getting involved in these major issues of AIDS, the homeless, and so forth was very important to her.
The princess's popularity gave the royal family new blood. It gave new blood in lots of different ways. Of course, with William and Harry arriving, it gave the royal family a new line.
But it wasn't always so high-powered. She twice flew to Pakistan to support Imran Khan's cancer hospital, and it was here that a photograph of a caring Diana cradling a sick child was to spark her last and controversial press interview. That photograph inspired the French daily Le Monde, and the interview started another controversy.
In most circumstances, when the man on the street, if you like, meets royalty, it's in a situation that's planned, it's corralled, and you stand there and you'll be there, and somebody will come along and you'll shake your hand, don't say anything, you either bob or you curtsy, and then you move on, and that's your lasting impact of royalty. And that wasn't Diana. You know, Diana would come along, this shaking of the hand and this bobbing nonsense. You know, she would often say, "Don't call me ma'am, call me Diana," you know, and engage them in a conversation. And I remember one incident in Manchester, and we were walking down some street in Manchester that had been terraced off with these metal railings, And we're walking down and she's chatting away, and suddenly she sees this elderly woman with a walking stick about 3 people back. And she said, "What are you doing over there?" And this sort of woman, with this sort of manky neck, said, "Oh, she said, I want to say hello to you." She said, "Oh, just a minute." And got this. She said, "Get that policeman, Ken, and get that lady to come through here." So the lady, came through, and started chatting away there. And she said, "Look, you ought to get a warmer coat than that." So sort of suddenly, out of nowhere, you're getting this sort of princess that's now more concerned about somebody else in the crowd than herself. This was typical Diana. I saw that on so many occasions because she felt it was part of her duty rather than just turn up, shake and push a few people back.
Especially now, as Christmas brings its own painful stresses to so many people in need. The sick, the old, the handicapped and the homeless, the lonely, the confused, and the simply unloved, who are needing your help more than ever.
And that's a point to which I'd often refer, because that one moment of humanity changed my life. And I saw the princess in a different light. I saw her as beautiful inside as she was on the outside. Life with Diana was 24/7. My wife said, "There are 3 people in my marriage too, because Diana is always there." She used to say, "She's your baby." I said, "Yes, she's my baby. She needs me. She needs me to be there." My wife had 2 children. The princess had no one. Her children were away at boarding school. She had no husband. Occasionally, she had a male companion, but they came and they went. I was responsible for that too. I was a go-between. I was the one that went out with my car, brought people back to Kensington Palace in the back seat of my car underneath a blanket, just to give the princess some love. All she was ever looking for was to be loved. She used to say to me, "All I ever want, Paul, is a man to put their arms around me and say, 'I love you.' That's not too much to ask, is it?" And that's what she was searching for. Towards the end of her life, of course, she found her soulmate. Her soulmate was Hasnat Khan, the heart surgeon.
Diana, when she came to Pakistan, this was a country that she had fond memories of, wasn't it?
Yes, I think she enjoyed her time here. She really liked the days she spent here, I think.
And meeting your family, that must have been a special moment for her and for them.
I think it definitely was for my family, and I think she enjoyed the afternoon tea with them. I think that's a long time ago now, 1996, I think.
I remember the day the princess met Hasnat Khan. She came back from the hospital, having visited children on the ward, and she said, "The most astonishing things happened to me today." As we sat down, she told me about this meeting. She said, "I was going up in the elevator and somebody put their foot into the elevator door as it was closing, and it opened again. And there he was. This gorgeous man was staring at me. Well, who wouldn't stare at Princess Diana? Surrounded by a gaggle of students, Hasnat was on his rounds around the hospital. And there he was, face to face with the princess for the first time. And she said, I knew I would have a relationship with him. Our chemistry was so strong that I knew. Of course, their relationship was nearly 2 years in the making. 2 years, no one knew about him. Again, I was the go-between. I would bring him into the palace. I'd ask chef to cook dinner for 2. I'd wait dinner for 2. I'd make sure they were comfortable before I went home. And in the morning, I'd take him back in the boot of my car to the hospital. So the police never saw him. The chefs never saw him. The maids never saw him. No one saw him, just me.
How angry are you at some of the things that you've read over the years and things that have been said? I mean, they must be quite painful when people deal with something that is so intensely personal and make mistakes and get things wrong.
It is very annoying. It's but what you can do, you can't do anything. It's when you just read. The best thing what I thought we could do is stop reading about it. And if I would read something and that would be contradictory to the events or the reality, then obviously you get upset, especially when it relates to what my father said this, which I know isn't true, or my friend something said this, and I know it, categorically it wasn't true, or an onlooker said that, which could be any freelance photographer, or we took an opinion of a psychologist saying that the body language is such. Or, obviously these are annoying things and they hurt. But then the media doing their job. And
you were saying outside, in terms of your memory, Diana, the normalcy of the person is what struck you, wasn't it?
I found a very normal person, yes. We all have our drawbacks and qualities. I found her as, as someone who just met her, I found her a very normal person. A normal person with great qualities, and of course there's some, personal drawbacks like we have, like habits, for example. And I think she did a great work for the country and for people all over the world, not just from United Kingdom, not just for United Kingdom, for everyone. I think that's very important.
And in fact, Diana introduced William and Harry to Hasnat Khan, because in the princess's eyes, Hasnat was the man she was going to marry. So better the boys get used to him.
But he was very, very worried that the press would get hold of it, and he couldn't deal with it.
I don't know how she'll find a husband, but I always imagined she'd end up with someone older, very powerful and rich, perhaps a sort of Onassis-type figure that really could look after her and whisk her away from everything.
I hope you can find it in your hearts to understand and to give me the time and space that has been lacking in recent years.
Hasnat Khan had been the princess's companion for over 2 years. Nobody knew about Hasnat Khan. That was not played out on the world stage. Whereas, after they'd broken up, the princess was invited to the south of France by the Mohammed Al Fayeds. She met Dodi Al Fayed.
Diana and Dodi met long before 1997. They met at various events, film premieres, at the polo, at the horse show, the sort of places that people of their kind would meet at. When they actually fell in love in the summer of 1997, they were already friends. And then, of course, they were together in the south of France, and a relationship which was already established became a deeper and closer relationship. And when they came back to London, they'd already made arrangements to get in touch with each other. They met and they started seeing each other, and it all went on from there.
did you know that the romance of the princess and Dodi Al-Fayed was 30 days from beginning to end? It only lasted 30 days. I spoke to her regularly when she was away. Have you seen Hasnat? I said, yes, I went for a drink with him last night. What does he think of me being here in the south of France with Dodi Al-Fayed? Well, he's not too pleased. Has he seen the pictures in the papers? Yes, he has, because you know his routine. You know every morning he goes to the corner shop and sees the press. You know that. And I know that's what you're doing. You're manipulating the world's media by having these pictures taken to show Hasnat who you're with. It's sort of a... Are you jealous? Do you mind? Do you care? Are you bothered? That's what Diana was saying to Hasnat Khan through those pictures in the world's media. And of course, Hasnat was bothered.
I knew Dodi, and he was probably one of the most charming people you could ever meet. And he's always so rather cool. Had an American accent, beautifully dressed, and he treated Diana like the princess she was. Nobody else had treated her like that. I mean, with Hasnat Khan, she had to sort of hide him at the back of her car, and they had to, they mostly ate in, or if they went out, she was in disguise. But with Dodi, she could show herself off. I think she liked him very much. I don't know if she was in love with him, but she was in love with the idea of him. I think Diana wanted to get married again, and she wanted to have another child. Again, I think getting married again probably was a bit of a fantasy. Certainly getting married to the doctor that she was in love with was a fantasy, because it would never have worked out. It couldn't have worked for him.
I didn't find out until recently that he called her the day before she died on her mobile phone. He called her to try and patch up their relationship. Had she returned to London, I truly believe the romance between Hasnat Khan and the princess would have been rekindled. It was too strong. It was too deep. They were true soulmates.
But she did want to get married again, very much so. In a way, I think she wanted to find someone that could work with her. In a way that it was what she'd hoped for when she married Prince Charles.
I said to the princess, when are you coming home? I'm coming home on Sunday, Paul. I'm just bored. I'm on this boat. It's freezing cold downstairs. It's boiling hot on deck. I'm sending these pictures out and nobody's coming back to me. I'm having no communication. I need to come home. But the only way home is on the Harrods jet. The only way I can get home is via Paris, because Dodi has to go to Paris to do some business for his father. How is he with you? Oh, he's very spoiling. He's very generous, the princess said. He's given me a necklace, some earrings. He's given me a watch. I said, you know what's coming next, don't you?
Ragazzi, per cortesia. Per cortesia.
There were so many people that let go of her, that abandoned her, that let her go into the world. It wasn't a safe place for her. She was too important. She was too big a person to be let free. And having lived inside that safety of that gilded cage of a palace for so long, what happens to a beautiful peacock when you let it into the wild? It gets eaten by something. You see, she needed to be kept safe, and that's what she was looking for. She was looking for her Aristotle Onassis.
After the breakdown of her marriage to Prince Charles in 1996, Princess Diana sought solace and emotional fulfillment in her personal life. Having endured years of public scrutiny and private struggles, She was determined to find happiness on her own terms. In the summer of 1997, Diana's search for a new relationship led her to Dodi Fayed, the son of billionaire businessman Mohammed Al Fayed. Princess Diana first met Dodi Fayed in 1986 at a polo match in Windsor. At the time, Dodi's team was playing against Prince Charles's team. The encounter was brief, and at that point there was no indication that they would later form a romantic relationship. Diana was still married to Prince Charles, and Dodi was known primarily for his connections within elite circles, thanks to his father, Mohammed Al Fayed. Their paths crossed again over a decade later, when Diana accepted an invitation from Mohammed Al Fayed to vacation with his family on their yacht in the south of France.
You see, she always thought that she was as kind of Jackie Kennedy, that had lost her mainstay in life and still needed someone to take care of her and protect her and keep her safe. And in a way, Dodi Al Fayed was a kind of Aristotle Onassis. He was heir to a fortune, had an aeroplane and a boat, and was able to take the princess around the world in a safety corridor.
He was very nice to women. He wasn't a nasty person at all. He was a very sweet person, and he treated Diana like the princess she was. And nobody else had treated her like that.
And that's what thrilled her, in a way. That for once in her life, she'd found someone that could treat her in the way which she'd become accustomed, and the way that her lifestyle had always been.
I mean, with Hasnat Khan, she had to sort of hide him at the back of her car, and they had to, they mostly ate in, or if they went out, she was in disguise. But with Dodi, she could show herself off. So it was the first really free relationship she'd had since her marriage had broken down. It's the first time she could actually be out with someone, and she was having a ball.
She'd lived that relationship with Dodi Al Fayed in 40 days. It was 40 days from beginning to end. Now, you might think it was a year. Because it was played entirely on the world stage, you think it was longer. It was 40 days. From the moment she met him to the moment she died. And it was over.
There's fresh controversy surrounding Princess Diana this lunchtime after newspaper reports linking her with Dodi Fayed, the son of the Harrods boss Mohammed Al Fayed. She's said to have joined the 40-year-old millionaire and a group of friends for a Mediterranean cruise last weekend. Once again, her judgments under scrutiny, a day before she leaves for a controversial trip to Bosnia to campaign against landmines.
I knew Dodi, and he was probably one of the most charming people you could ever meet. And he's also rather cool, had an American accent, beautifully dressed. With Dodi, she could show herself off. So it was the first really free relationship she'd had since her marriage had broken down.
Just weeks after her controversial holiday with the Al Fayed family, which was widely discussed in the tabloids, it's emerged that Princess Diana has enjoyed a second holiday, this time with Mohammed Al Fayed's son.
Dodi and Diana's relationship blossomed during a holiday in the Mediterranean. They spent time aboard his father's luxurious yacht, the Chronicle, travelling around the French Riviera. For Diana, this trip represented more than a romantic holiday. It symbolised her desire to live life on her own terms, outside the constraints of the royal family and the spotlight that had often brought her pain. Dodi seemed to offer Diana a sense of freedom and spontaneity. Their romance quickly became the subject of media attention, with photographs of the couple sparking widespread interest and speculation.
I think she liked him very much. I don't know if she was in love with him, but she was in love with the idea of him, because she immediately saw with her power and Dodi's power through his father, they could do great things together. So he fitted in to her blueprint for her future.
Paul Burrell was constantly at Diana's side, one moment maintaining the distance of a man in service, the next joking with the boss.
I said to the princess, "When are you coming home?" "I'm coming home on Sunday, Paul. I'm just bored. I'm on this boat. It's freezing cold downstairs. It's boiling hot on deck. I'm sending these pictures out and nobody's coming back to me. I'm having no communication. I need to come home. But the only way home is on the Harrods jet. The only way I can get home is via Paris." Because Dodi has to go to Paris to do some business for his father. "How is he with you?" "Oh, he's very spoiling. He's very generous," the princess said. "He's given me a necklace, some earrings. He's given me a watch." I said, "You know what's coming next, don't you? He's going to give you a ring." "Do you think so?" "Oh, yes. He'll give you a ring. But remember, when he gives it to you, put it on the fourth finger of your right hand." "Yes, that's the thing to do. I'll do that. You always know what to do." "That's exactly what I'll do."
I spoke to the princess the day before and made all her plans for her return. Then she rang me from the hotel in Paris and said, "Oh, I'm going to be a little late."
They see me as a threat of some kind, and I'm here to do good. I'm not a destructive person.
Why do they see you as a threat?
I think every strong woman in history has had to walk down a similar path, and I think it's the strength that causes the confusion and the fear. Why is she strong? Where does she get it from? Where is she taking it? Where is she going to use it?
By 1997, Princess Diana was increasingly paranoid and anxious about her personal safety and privacy. Her high-profile divorce from Prince Charles in 1996 had left her feeling vulnerable, and she often expressed fears about being constantly watched or manipulated by forces beyond her control, including the British establishment and media. Diana believed she was under surveillance, fearing her phone calls were being monitored and her movements tracked. The relentless attention from the paparazzi also fueled her paranoia. She was constantly hounded by photographers who would chase her through the streets and invade her private moments, making her feel trapped and unable to escape the public eye. Diana took measures to avoid being followed, often switching cars, changing her plans last minute, and using decoy tactics to protect herself from the press. This constant pressure took an emotional toll on her. Her relationship with Dodi Fayed in the summer of 1997 may have been, in part, an attempt to escape from this suffocating atmosphere.
What confuses me, of course, is the fact that 10 months before that, the princess had written me a letter. And in that letter, she said, in her own handwriting, on her own stationery, her words were, "The next few months are the most difficult in my life. I fear that my husband is planning an accident in my car, head injuries, in order that he can remarry." Now, when you read those words, a prophecy the princess made 10 months before she died, it's rather eerie.
I hope you can find it in your hearts to understand and to give me the time and space that has been lacking in recent years.
She won't go quietly, that's the problem. I'll fight till the end, because I believe that I have a role to fulfill.
Saturday, the 30th of August, 1997. Diana and Dodi travelled to Paris and planned to stay overnight at the Ritz Hotel, owned by Dodi's father. Even though the princess was divorced from Prince Charles, she was still entitled to the same level of security as other members of the royal family. Diana chose not to take advantage of their security agents and was being looked after by members of the Al Fayed security team, led by Trevor Rees-Jones. The 30th of August 1997, 9:30 p.m. Dodi Al Fayed's plans to take the princess for a romantic meal are ruined as the couple are followed by paparazzi. The couple decided to retreat to a location the paparazzi could not penetrate, the Ritz Hotel. The couple decided to leave the Ritz and head to an apartment owned by Mohammed Al Fayed, a short distance from the hotel. "12:20 a.m. Henri Paul, the deputy head of security at the Ritz Hotel, had been instructed to drive the hired Mercedes-Benz S280 to elude the paparazzi. A decoy vehicle left the Ritz from the main entrance. Diana and Dodi then departed from the hotel's rear entrance, heading for the apartment. Diana and Dodi were the rear passengers. Trevor Rees-Jones and Henri Paul occupied the front seats. At this point, the paparazzi had caught up with the Mercedes. Henri Paul drove faster to get away from the photographers. Just before Paul headed into the Alma tunnel, he swerved slightly to avoid a slower car, but grazed the vehicle. The car began to spin out of control.
Diana, Princess of Wales, has been seriously injured in a car accident in Paris.
French radio is saying that the accident happened in western Paris when the car she was travelling in collided with another vehicle in a tunnel. The princess is reported to have been taken to hospital. There is no news of her condition, and as yet the report is unconfirmed. It's also reported that a passenger in the princess's car was killed. One report, quoting French police, says it is her friend Dodi Al Fayed.
"12:23 a.m. At the speed of around 65 miles per hour, the car slammed into the 13th concrete column inside the Alma tunnel. As the victims lay in the wrecked car, the trailing paparazzi rushed to help, while others took pictures. Fayed had been sitting in the left rear seat and appeared to be dead. Fire officers were still trying to resurrect him when he was pronounced dead by a doctor at 1:32 a.m. Henri Paul was declared dead on removal from the wreckage. Still conscious, Trevor Rees-Jones had suffered multiple serious facial injuries. at 12:30 a.m. The first police patrol arrived on the scene. At 1 a.m. Diana was removed from the car. She then went into cardiac arrest. Following external cardiopulmonary resuscitation, her heart started beating again.
First, we'd heard the princess had had head injuries and broken her arm. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, we heard that the injuries were more serious than they first thought. And it wasn't until about 3 o'clock that they told us that the accident had been fatal. And during this time, my thoughts were, I must get to Paris, because if she's incapacitated in any way, she'll need me to support her, to take care of her, to keep her safe. And when I heard that the accident was fatal, I thought there's even more reason for me to be there. I do need to keep her safe. I need to protect her. I need to look after her. So early Sunday morning, I arrived in Paris and was taken straight by the British ambassador, taken to the hospital.
At 1:18 a.m. She was moved to the ambulance, left the scene at 1:41 a.m. and arrived at the hospital at 2:06 a.m. At 4 a.m. Princess Diana was pronounced dead, aged 36.
I approached the bed. It was a hospital bed, and the princess was covered in a white sheet. Her head and her feet were visible, and her hands were on top of the sheet. And I approached the bed, and I stared for a while in disbelief, and I watched the fan whirring on the side of the bed table. A fan was moving on the bedside table, and as it moved the princess's hair, and I could see her eyelashes moving. And I took her hand and said, "Wake up. You're asleep, aren't you? Wake up." And nothing happened. She was soft and warm. Not dead at all. It was quite a while before I realized that she was actually not with us, and remembered what she told me about death. She said, at that moment when you pass, your spirit lifts from the body, and you hang around for a while and watch. So I said, "You're here, aren't you? You're here. You're watching me." watching what I'm doing. And I'll try and do it the way you'd want me to do it. So I stayed with her.
The death of Diana marked a significant moment in history. It was more than the passing of a beloved public figure. It symbolized a shift in how the world viewed royalty and celebrity.
A girl given the name of the ancient goddess of hunting was, in the end, the most hunted person of the modern age.
From that point on, the boundaries between the public and private lives of those in the spotlight would be scrutinized more closely, altering the course of media and public perception. Princess Diana's tragic death in 1997 sent shockwaves around the world, uniting millions of people in grief. What unfolded next rocked the royal family, sparking a crisis that challenged their public image. The then Prince Charles, along with Diana's sisters, flew to Paris on the afternoon of 31st of August 1997 to collect Princess Diana's body following her tragic car accident earlier that day. They returned with her body to RAF Northolt in London that evening, where she was received with a sombre and respectful ceremony.
It must have been very difficult for the Prince of Wales to come to Paris because he was estranged from his wife, divorced from his wife, didn't particularly like her. He was there, of course, for the boys, as their father. But he was out of sorts, didn't know how to behave. This was new territory. His ex-wife was dead.
I feel like everyone else in this country today, utterly devastated. Our thoughts and prayers are with Princess Diana's family, in particular her two sons, the two boys. Our hearts go out to them. We are today a nation in Britain in a state of shock, in mourning, in grief that is so deeply painful for us. She was a wonderful and a warm human being. Though her own life was often sadly touched by tragedy, she touched the lives of so many others in Britain throughout the world with joy and with comfort. How many times shall we remember her? In how many different ways? With the sick, the dying, with children, with the needy. When with just a look or a gesture that spoke so much more than words, she would reveal to all of us the depth of her compassion and her humanity. You know how difficult things were for her from time to time. I'm sure we can only guess at, but the people everywhere, not just here in Britain, everywhere, They kept faith with Princess Diana. They liked her, they loved her. They regarded her as one of the people. She was the people's princess. And that's how she will stay, how she will remain in our hearts and in our memories forever.
And we brought her home, and I came home, and I had a little walk in the gardens of Kensington Palace and saw people beginning to bring their floral tributes. Maybe just 20 or 30 of them. Maybe 100. Nothing like what would happen that week.
The public's adoration for the late princess had never been more visible.
She will always be in our thoughts and forever in our hearts. And that's how I see her.
Just sorrow. Just sorrow and wish we'd told before we loved her.
I just can't believe she's gone.
Especially now, as Christmas brings its own painful stresses to so many people in need. The sick, the old, the handicapped and the homeless, the lonely, the confused, and the simply unloved, who are needing your help more than ever.
Princess Diana's funeral took place on 6th of September 1997 at Westminster Abbey in London. The event was attended by world leaders, celebrities and millions of mourners. 2.5 billion viewers worldwide watched the event via television broadcast. Her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, walked behind the coffin, accompanied by their father, Prince Charles, grandfather, Prince Philip, and Diana's brother, Earl Spencer. The experience left a lasting impact on both brothers, with Harry in particular reflecting on how challenging it was to grieve publicly under such intense scrutiny. Elton John performed a special rendition of Candle in the Wind in her memory. The emotional service reflected Diana's profound impact on the public, her humanitarian work, and her role as the people's princess. However, Earl Charles Spencer steered the tone of Diana's funeral in a different direction. His bold eulogy criticised the media and vowed to protect her legacy, marking a striking contrast to the traditional formality of royal ceremonies.
It is a tribute to her level-headedness and strength that despite the most bizarre life imaginable after her childhood, she remained intact, true to herself. There is no doubt that she was looking for a new direction in her life at this time. She talked endlessly of getting away from England, mainly because of the treatment that she received at the hands of the newspapers. I don't think she ever understood why her genuinely good intentions were sneered at by the media, why there appeared to be a permanent quest on their behalf to bring her down. It is baffling. My own and only explanation is that genuine goodness is threatening to those at the opposite end of the moral spectrum. It is a point to remember that of all the ironies about Diana, perhaps the greatest was this. a girl given the name of the ancient goddess of hunting, was, in the end, the most hunted person of the modern age.
I mean, this was a major event. 80 VIPs and protected people attended this funeral. It was an extraordinary event. For me, the eulogy given by her brother, Charles Spencer, was incredibly powerful.
I would like to end by thanking God for the small mercies he's shown us at this dreadful time, for taking Diana at her most beautiful and radiant, and when she had joy in her private life. Above all, we give thanks for the life of a woman I'm so proud to be able to call my sister.
It didn't hold back at all about the role of the monarchy and the criticism he had of the royal family and the media. And this was being relayed outside. So, you know, what I remember was this, it was like sort of dry leaves falling on a sort of corrugated tin roof. But it was actually the clapping outside of people that were applauding Spencer for what he was saying. It must have been very difficult for the Queen and other members of the royal family to listen to this. But I'm afraid, well, I'm not afraid, Spencer was true. He was right in what he said. You know, I think Diana did get a bad deal from the royal family, if I'm honest. It was sad, really. Sad that even when she died, when the Queen was in Balmoral, it took some persuasion to get the Queen to return to London. But then, to be fair, you know, what the Queen said, and the first time ever where she acknowledged the work of Diana, was on her death, which was rather sad, really.
First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness. I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her two boys. This week at Balmoral, we have all been trying to help William and Harry come to terms with the devastating loss that they and the rest of us have suffered. No one who knew Diana will ever forget her. Millions of others who never met her, but felt they knew her, will remember her.
Diana, our companion in faith and sister in Christ, we entrust you to God.
The funeral was, you know, a very moving occasion for, I think, for me. I mean, the service, her brother, the music that she, you know, liked. You know, I think it left a memory for many, many hundreds of thousands of people. But the lasting memory will be certainly the occasion. You know, the walking behind her coffin by her two sons. But I think, you know, the stark reality and truth of her brother, of what he said, will always be, for me, a lasting memory.
After Princess Diana's death, the popularity of the monarchy significantly declined, as the royal family faced criticism for their perceived lack of public emotion and response to the tragedy. Polls taken shortly after her death showed that public support for the monarchy dropped to around 50 to 60%, a significant decline compared to previous years. The event marked a turning point in the royal family's relationship with the public.
It shocked them to the core. They didn't understand what was happening. They didn't understand that the world could love a woman whom they'd never met. They didn't understand why people were crying in the street. They thought the world had gone mad, that everybody had gone hysterical. The Queen's first thought was to keep her grandchildren safe, and so she kept them at Balmoral and looked after them behind those walls. That's what she thought was the best thing for them. There was no flag flying at Buckingham Palace. It seemed the royal family didn't care. They wanted rid of Diana. They stripped her of her royal titles, and she was an outcast. Now what to do about it? This had never happened before. It was unprecedented. There was no rule book to look to say, what shall we do next? Everybody was feeling their way very carefully. It was a very sensitive time.
Princess Diana's death only renewed public love for her. The outpouring of grief highlighted Diana as a figure deeply connected to the people through her compassion, humanitarian work and approachable demeanour.
Well, she's special because she brings light to the world about all the sadness that's going on in the world, the landmine and those people with AIDS.
I wish she was alive to do many more for the country, you know, but sadly God decided to take her, so we just had to pray for her, you know.
Her courage and compassion were obvious wherever she went. This was an Indonesian leprosy hospital, where her refusal to worry about close contact with patients was reckoned to have helped change attitudes to the disfiguring disease.
Here we are, 20 years later. We're still talking about her because Diana has become an icon.
The Princess of Wales felt not the slightest apprehension about her visit to the Middlesex Hospital and its AIDS ward, according to press reports. All the speculation had centred on whether she would wear gloves when shaking hands with the staff and patients on the new ward.
We're talking about her because she changed the rule book. She tore out pages from that dusty old book and she rewrote those rules. She changed the royal family forever. The ghost of Diana will always haunt the House of Windsor. She changed the rules for the women she'd never meet. She changed the rules for Catherine so that she would have a better life, a better passage. And whoever Harry marries, she changed the rules for her too.
She really is beautiful, isn't it?
So in a way, she's changing the rules for her children. Her children, William and Harry, are her legacy to the world. They will finish their mother's work. 36 years old, you don't expect your mother to die. Her untimely death catapulted those boys into the forefront of the royal family. They are the royal family's future.
Today, Prince William and Prince Harry honour their mother, Princess Diana, by continuing her humanitarian work and dedication to charitable causes. Both of Diana's children have championed mental health campaigns, advocated for social justice, and focused on key charity work concerning AIDS and homelessness.
When my mother held the hand of a man dying of AIDS in an East London hospital, no one would have imagined that just over a quarter of a century later, treatment would exist that could see HIV-positive people live full, healthy, loving lives.
One day we will see King William and Queen Catherine on the throne of England. And strangely enough, when William and Harry came to see me at Kensington Palace shortly after their mother died, I said to them, you must take something. Take something which belonged to her that you can keep safe. What do you want, William? I said. I'd like Mummy's Cartier watch, the one that Grandpa Spencer gave to her for her 21st birthday. Okay, I went to the safe and I got the watch. And what about you, Harry? What would you like? I remember, he said, when I held Mummy's hand when I was a small boy, that ring always hurt me because it's so big. Do you mean her engagement ring? Yes. So I went to the safe and gave Harry Diana's engagement ring. William told Harry that he was going to become engaged to Catherine. Harry said to him, wouldn't it be fitting if she had Mummy's ring? And then one day, that ring will be sat on the throne of England. So Harry gave up his precious treasure, his one thing he kept from his mother, he gave to his brother. That's selfless, kind, and exactly who Diana was.
One of the things our mother taught William and I was the value of doing good when no one is watching. She visited hospitals late at night to comfort patients. She spent hours writing letters to privately support the work of others. She achieved a lot by shining a spotlight, but she worked just as hard when the cameras were gone.
William and Harry remain dedicated to protecting Diana's memory. In recent years, they have openly condemned the media practices that contributed to her untimely death and challenged the erosion of boundaries between public and private life.
I would like to thank Lord Dyson and his team for the report. It is welcome that the BBC accepts Lord Dyson's findings in full, which are extremely concerning. That BBC employees lied and used fake documents to obtain the interview with my mother, made lurid and false claims about the royal family, which played on her fears and fueled paranoia, displayed woeful incompetence when investigating complaints and concerns about the programme, and were evasive in their reporting to the media and covered up what they knew from their internal investigation. It is my view that the deceitful way the interview was obtained substantially influenced what my mother said. The interview was a major contribution to making my parents' relationship worse and has since hurt countless others. It brings indescribable sadness to know that the BBC's failures contributed significantly to her fear, paranoia, and isolation that I remember from those final years with her.
Through these actions, the two brothers have managed to gain some form of justice for the tragedy which occurred in 1997. The death of Diana marked a significant moment in history. It was more than the passing of a beloved public figure. It symbolized a shift in how the world viewed royalty and celebrity.
I've been allowed to share your thoughts and dreams, your disappointments and your happiness. My debt of gratitude to you all is immense.
Diana's legacy as the people's princess will no doubt live on forever.